Lifting the veil of secrecy. The military's highest court heard arguments for greater transparency in the case of accused WikiLeaks whistleblower Bradley Manning. Journalists and advocacy groups have been fighting to get access to legal documents and other records which have been kept from the public. The private first class faces a sentence of life behind bars for allegedly leaking hundreds of thousands of military documents to WikiLeaks. To talk more about the fight to get the facts out on this case, I'm joined by Kevin Gosztola, a blogger for Firedog Lake. Kevin, welcome. So tell us more about the way that this court hearing played out.
It appears that yesterday in the first oral argument in this case, we were arguing over more access to court-martial records in the proceedings, and I myself happen to be a plaintiff. So the Center for Constitutional Rights attorney at the courtroom was representing myself and others, including Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, Amy Goodman of Democracy Now!, The Nation, Jeremy Scahill's national security reporter, and all of us, and along with 30 media organizations that have filed a brief in support. So a majority of media support this. And what really went down in this hearing was some questions as to, does the court have the jurisdiction to rule on this? There's a major First Amendment issue in this case. It's a major constitutional case. And so the judge actually asked the government, is this reasonable, what you're doing here? I'm paraphrasing it. Instead of just handing over the documents, you're making this into a constitutional case. Could you, is it really what you want to do? And so that was a critical part of the hearing.
All right. Any idea if or when the judge will issue a ruling on this?
Well, there's much more that needs to be litigated. So there's going to be 2 more weeks here where some questions are answered by the lawyer that represents the media side of this argument. The government will also have to answer some questions. The government continues to maintain that Freedom of Information Act is a mechanism that's available for the press and the public if they would like to know more about what's happening in these proceedings. I'd take issue with that because as it is happening, we should be able to get the information in real time so that people can be informed as to what is going on, particularly in this court-martial.
Let's say you were to go that route and you were to file, you said you want to get this information in real time. If you were to go that route, if you were to file a Freedom of Information Act request, how long would it take to obtain that information?
I actually have filed a Freedom of Information Act request, and it came up in the courtroom yesterday, and the judge asked questions about the whole process of the Freedom of Information Act request process because it does not provide responsive documents immediately. You have to wait a month or more than a month, or if they don't respond, then you have to send some kind of message to agencies asking about it. They can play games, they can play hide the ball, and they can say you sent it to the wrong agency and send it to another agency. I sent it to the place that the briefer who handles our press pool told us to, but apparently it was sent to the wrong location. So there's a sort of gaming that can go on in the background, and this is really, really bad for the public, which has a right to this information.
So it sounds like a grueling process if you're going to get that information at all at the end of it. Did the prosecution indicate why they didn't want to release the records so that reporters and concerned activists and advocates like yourself can get a hold of the information as it comes out?
They haven't put forward an argument, though. In my coverage of the Bradley Manning court-martial, I had a briefer answer this question when it was put to him, and he seemed to suggest that this was for the benefit of military counsel, that there is no public records for it. Like federal trials, those have records, but military trials don't, he said, because they have to be able to move on to future cases and take cases. It was a quite absurd
So it's an argument about timing?
I mean, he was just suggesting that it gives the military counsels cover to take new cases without having previous cases follow them to the next case. So it lets you cover up your record as a military counsel. That's as close to an answer that I've gotten, because so far they've just maintained that the proceedings are open and the press and public have complete access because they can go inside the room and they can hear what is being said. And, I'm there. I'm able to go cover it as press. So the public has a way of getting some information on what is going on.
All right. So if they are making that argument and you are able to attend the trial and these hearings and you're hearing what's going on, what more do you think could be hidden in these documents that aren't being released?
Well, it's everything that I've heard publicly, because I've been sitting in the courtroom, and there's nothing that we're asking them to make available that isn't already being shared with Bradley Manning supporters who are present, or anyone who is helping to assist the prosecution on the other side. We all sit in this room, we hear what's being stated, and all we're asking is that when we want to use these documents to provide a context, and we want to take some of the theories that are being floated in the room and ask legal experts, we'd be able to reference actual documents so that we can just create more understanding around what is happening. This is quite a high-profile case, and what is happening with this trial, there are trailblazing legal theories where the government is alleging that Bradley Manning aided the enemy, which is a capital offense. So it's incredibly critical that we would be able to use this information.
All right. And, as you said, a very high profile case. A lot of people arguing that at this point, a fair trial is not possible for Manning. Do you think that this is more evidence of that?
Part of having a fair trial means that there is transparency. It means that the press and public would have access. I think that there is no reason in my mind, having been there experiencing the proceedings, to think that the same level of transparency in a federal civilian court could not be present in a military court.
All right, Kevin, great to have you on. Thanks for filling us in on all of that. That was Kevin Gosztola, a blogger for Fire Dog Lake.